Welcome to Spiritual Calisthenics.
Christ is in our midst. Today, on Wednesday, August 30th, we commemorate the Apodosis of the Feast of the Forerunner. We also celebrate Saints Alexander, John, and Paul, the new Patriarchs of Constantinople. We also celebrate Saint Phantinos, the righteous of Calabria, the 16 Monk-martyrs of Thebes, as well as the synaxes of the Holy Hierarchs of Serbia and the Holy New Martyrs of Serbia. Regarding Saints Alexander, John, and Paul, the new Patriarchs of Constantinople, Saint Alexander was sent to the First Ecumenical Council in Nicaea as the delegate of Saint Phantinos, Bishop of Constantinople, to whose throne he succeeded in the year 325. When Arius had deceitfully professed allegiance to the Council of Nicaea, Saint Alexander, knowing his guile, refused to receive him into communion. Arius's powerful partisans threatened that they would use force to bring Arius into the communion of the Church the following day. Saint Alexander prayed fervently that God might spare the Church, and as Arius was in a privy place relieving nature, his bowels gushed forth with an effusion of blood, and the Archheresiarch died the death of Judas. Saint Alexander was bishop from 325 until 337, when he was succeeded by Saint Paul the Confessor, who died a martyr's death at the hands of the Arians. Saint John, commemorated here, appears to be the one who was patriarch during the years 562 to 577, surnamed Scholastus, who was also commemorated on February 21st. He was from Antioch, where he had been a lawyer, Scholasticus. He was made presbyter, then was sent to Constantinople as representative Apodosis of the Patriarch of Antioch, and was appointed Patriarch of Constantinople by the Emperor Justinian. St. Paul was Bishop of Constantinople during the years 687 to 693, in the reign of Emperor Justinian II, and presided over the Quintinsect Council in 692. O God of our fathers, ever dealing with us according to thy gentleness, take not thy mercy from us, but by their entreaties guide our life in peace. Aflame with love for Christ, you took the yoke upon yourselves, and since you emulated well his life upon earth, you also were made partakers of his great glory. Now, O Fathers Alexander, the divinely wise, wondrous John, and glorious Paul, ye stand before his throne, wherefore fervently intercede with him to save our souls. Regarding the synaxes of the Holy Hierarchs of Serbia. The synaxes of the Holy Hierarchs of Serbia, the saints commemorated on this day are Savas, first Archbishop and Enlightener of Serbia, who we celebrate on January 14th, Arsenius, his successor, a great hierarch and wonder-worker, Savas II, son of St. Stephen, the first crowned king of Serbia, Nicodemus, abbot of Hilandar, later Archbishop of Serbia, Ioannicus, Archbishop, later Patriarch from 1346 to 1349, Patriarch Ephrem, an ascetic who crowned Prince Lazarus and later left the Patriarchate to live in solitude, Spiridon, Ephrem's successor, who reposed in 1388, Macarius, printed many church books in Serbia and abroad, was very zealous in renovating and adoring the churches, and reposed in 1574. Gabriel, Archbishop, who took part in the Church Council of Moscow during the Patriarchate of Nikon, for which the Turks accused him of treason and hanged him in Prussia in the year 1656. Also commemorated are Eustathius, James, Daniel, Sabas III, Gregory, Cyril, John, Maximus, and Nikon. Many of them labored in asceticism on the holy mountain, and all were good and faithful servants, good laborers in the vineyard of the Lord. Our first hierarchs and God-bearing fathers, as enlighteners of Serbia, were holy chief shepherds and patriarchs, true guardians of the apostolic traditions, unshakable pillars and teachers of orthodoxy, entreat Christ, the master of all, for the peace of the world and great mercy for our souls. Ye that sat on the episcopal throne lived most piously and guided your people unto knowledge of God, thereby becoming well-pleasing to him. Hence ye were glorified by him with incorruption and miracles as initiates of the grace of God. From St. Paul's second letter to the Corinthians. Brethren, the rendering of this service not only supplies the wants of the saints, but also overflows in many thanksgivings to God. So in other words, when we give of ourselves to our ministries, this doesn't only help the ministries, but it also helps us by giving glory and thanks to God. Under the test of this service, you will glorify God by your obedience in acknowledging the gospel of Christ, by generosity of your contribution for them and all others, while they long for you and pray for you, because of the surpassing grace of God in you. Thanks be to God for his inexpressible gift. I, Paul, myself entreat you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ, I who am humble when face to face with you, but bold to you when I am away. I beg of you that when I am present, I may not have to show boldness with such confidence as I count on showing against some who suspect us of actions in worldly fashion. For though we live in the world, we are not carrying on a worldly war. For the weapons of our warfare are not worldly, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. In other words, St. Paul and those of the church are warring against demons, and demons try to come into the church and try to poison minds. And so the poisoned minds are trying to say that, oh, Paul and his ilk, they just want your money, they just want your goods, not realizing that Paul is purposely depriving himself of everything so that he might serve the people. We destroy arguments and every proud obstacle to the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to obey Christ, being ready to punish every disobedience when your obedience is complete. Look at what is before your eyes. If anyone is confident that he is Christ, let him remind himself that as he is Christ, so are we. Because Christ humbled himself, Christ lowered himself to serve others, and that is what St. Paul is asking us to emulate. From the Gospel according to St. Mark. At that time Jesus came to a home, and the crowd came together again, so that they could not even eat. And when his family heard it, they went out to seize him, for people were saying, "He is beside himself." Scribes who came down from Jerusalem said, "He is possessed by Beelzebul, and the prince of demons, he casts out demons." And he called to them and he said to them in parables, "How can Satan cast out Satan? If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand." Many, of course, quote Abraham Lincoln in his address to Gettysburg, not realizing he was quoting Christ here. And if a house divided against itself, that house will not be able to stand. And if Satan has risen up against himself and is divided, he cannot stand, but is coming to an end. But no one can enter a strong man's house and plunder his goods, unless he first binds the strong man. Then indeed he may plunder his house. So in other words, Jesus Christ is stronger than the demons. He is able to come into the house of our soul and cast out the ruler of that house, the demons, so that we might be free again.
I hope that you've enjoyed today's Spiritual Calisthenics. Have a blessed and wonderful day.